Thank you for this invite. And, Dr. Umesh Khanna and the organizing committee had asked me to keep it short and brief so we actually can have a discussion instead of a sort of a didactic lecture. So lipids and chronic kidney disease, there is much to be said and there's very little data to basically elaborate. So basically, chronic kidney disease is associated with increased cardiovascular disease and obviously increased cardiovascular mortality. And way back in the Lancet in 2011, actually chronic kidney disease patients, men with a creatinine of more than 1.7 and women with a creatinine of 1.5 were put on simvastatin and ezetimibe. And this showed a major decrease in all cardiovascular events across the board. And basically, for patients with chronic kidney disease, there is an estimated 19% reduction in major atherosclerotic events per 39 milligram per deciliter reduction in LDL cholesterol. So this first slide basically tells you that every chronic kidney disease patient should be on statins or some sort of cholesterol lowering agent. But is that true? Is that the rule of thumb? So we'll go forward and look at that part of it. So you have to assess the lipid status in patients with chronic kidney disease, and a very basic assessment would be the total cholesterol, the LDL cholesterol, the HDL cholesterol, and triglycerides. Now, there is a term known as shoot and forget. So in chronic kidney disease, actually, they start statins according to the guidelines, and then they just forget monitoring it, unlike in other atherosclerotic diseases with ischemic heart disease, where you keep monitoring it. So that was a shoot and forget attitude, which was proposed for chronic kidney disease. Now, what are the medical conditions? What are the medical conditions which actually lead to the causes of dyslipidemia and chronic kidney disease? So there are various. As you all know, nephrotic syndrome is one of the common causes of hypercholesterolemia. There is a history of alcohol consumption, hypothyroid state, liver disease, and diabetes. Along with our medications, especially the ones which we use after transplant in the form of corticosteroids, cyclosporin, and sirolimus. So once you start a statin or any anti-dyslipidemic agent, one has to make sure that he is not on another drug which could cause drug-drug interactions. Now, this slide actually is very busy, and it just tells you that there is no rule of thumb in how the lipid status will look in nephrology. Okay, so the triglycerides are high in hemodialysis patients, nephrotic syndrome patients, and peritoneal dialysis patients, while in stages 1 to 4, they might be even normal. As you can see, the pattern varies across the board. One thing I would like to bring to your notice is the LDL cholesterol. All the guidelines are based on reduction of LDL cholesterol. And as we go further down this presentation, you will see that the LDL cholesterol is not as elevated in chronic kidney disease patients as it is in other patients. So do we need another marker which will be more accurate to tell us what the lipid status or the dyslipidemic milieu of chronic kidney disease is? And there has been a proposition to use lipoprotein A, which you can see in this slide, which is elevated in all forms of chronic kidney disease. So this is the latest European guidelines, and what do they categorize as very high risk patients for cardiovascular events? So severe CKD with a GFR of less than 30 mils per minute per 1.73 meter square is a very high risk factor for atherosclerotic disease. Now, why is this important? Because the goals of low density lipoprotein cholesterol are different according to your risk. So remember that if you have a GFR of less than 30 mils per minute per 1.73 meter square, your actual goal of LDL cholesterol is less than 55 milligram per deciliter and a reduction of 50%. So if you do not, if you want to achieve the maximum benefit of a dyslipidemic agent, this is what your goal would be for a very high risk patient. On the other hand, if it is just a high risk patient, which is moderate chronic kidney disease, which should be your eGFRs of between 30 to 59 mils per minute per 1.73 meters square, you still have to reduce the LDL cholesterol by 50%, but your LDL cholesterol goal is around 70. So for the very high risk, it's 55. For the high risk, it is around 70. Now, why would you remeasure lipids, in a chronic kidney disease patient? One is to know for compliance, because our patients, I have been listening to the last few talks, and our patients are on phosphate binders, calcium supplements. Whether you want to use allopurinol or febuxostat is still a debate. They'll be on multiple antihypertensive agents. They'll be on iron supplements, B12 supplements. So there will be a lot of pills to be taken. So one is to ensure there is compliance. Also, you need to whether you want to reevaluate the 10-year cardiovascular disease risk in patients less than 50 years, and to determine the goals. Because of the last two slides which I showed you, the goals vary. So just giving a statin might not help you achieve that goal. So maybe one needs to maybe remeasure lipids. There is no data telling you how often to measure it. So I cannot answer that question. So a randomized control trial may need to be done to tell you how often the lipids need to be remeasured in chronic kidney disease patients specifically. So as this is a dietary conference, we have to involve our dietitians, and the first thing that comes up is therapeutic lifestyle changes of patients with chronic kidney disease. Whenever I see a dyslipidemic patient with chronic kidney disease, I just ask them to go see my dietitian, which is Dr. Zamrud, because it's impossible to answer all these questions and to make a diet which contains all these factors. So basically, you have to consult your dietitian who's a specialist in renal nutrition. So the other thing that you have to also explain to them is the importance of body weight. So as you can see that you have to make sure that the obesity is controlled. And there was a lovely seminar on obesity this morning, which also elaborated how obesity and chronic kidney disease go hand in hand. So these are the factors which need to be looked at when one is also treating dyslipidemia. It's not only statins. A patient comes to your clinic with a high LDL cholesterol, is the beginning and the end is not giving them a statin. One has to look at the other lifestyle modifications, dietary changes that can be done. Also physical activity. There is a lot of stress on physical activity, even in our hemodialysis patients. Multiple trials showing how cycling during dialysis is helped. So obviously one needs to do at least 3 to 4 times a week, 30 minutes periods of moderate physical activity. Obviously, one has to keep in mind if there is an underlying ischemic heart disease and how much stress a person can take. But a gradual increase in the physical activity will definitely help. Will also help in reducing the weight. Will also help in controlling the blood sugars and the blood pressure. So the benefits of this are various. Also, habits and smoking cessation is one thing that one has to definitely stop if one is dyslipidemic. Alcohol in moderation. I don't know whether there's something as alcohol in moderation, but there are various guidelines which one can go through, how many glasses of each individual alcohol containing drink one can take. So what do the guidelines say? So basically statin treatment in chronic kidney disease, but not on renal replacement therapy. If they are between the ages of 18 to 49 and they have chronic kidney disease, if they are one of the following risk factors, one should be on a statin. So obviously if they have an ischemic heart disease, they have diabetes mellitus, they have a prior ischemic stroke, or if the 10-year incidence of coronary death or non-fatal MI is more than 10%. So there are scores for which you can calculate the last point. But if any of our patients between 18 to 49 who are chronic kidney disease have the first three risk factors, they should be on a statin. So, sorry. So statin treatment in patients above the age of 50 years and a GFR of less than 60 and who are not on dialysis or kidney transplant, one should treat with a statin or a statin ezetimibe combination. One can start with a statin, and if the lipids, if the LDL cholesterol does not decrease, then one can consider an ezetimibe. If the age is less than 50, but the GFR is more than, sorry, that slide. If the age is less than 50, with that slide is it's got the age wrong there. Sorry, apologies. So if the age is more than 50, then one has to treat with a statin. So statin treatment in dialysis patients, dialysis dependent CKD should not be initiated on a statin or statin ezetimibe treatment. Statin or statin ezetimibe treatment should not necessarily be discontinued among existing users when dialysis treatment is initiated. So why was this? So when the trials were conducted in dialysis patients who were started on statins, they did not find any mortality or cardiovascular benefit. Also, they found that the tolerance to statins was much lower in dialysis patients compared to the general chronic kidney disease population. So if one is on a statin before he is initiated on dialysis, then one can continue. But if one is initiated straight on dialysis and has no other cardiovascular, I mean, if he has an ischemic heart disease or he has had a previous stroke or he's had a PTCA, obviously he's going to be put on a statin for that. But just like I showed you in the last slide, where I said that all patients above the age of 50 with a GFR of less than 60 should be treated with a statin, that rule does not apply if the patient is otherwise healthy and is only on dialysis and has no other coronary cardiovascular risk factors. So statin treatment in kidney transplant patients, everybody should do a fasting lipid level on an annual basis. Treatment targets are same as the general population. It reduces the primary and secondary cardiovascular risk. And one thing one has to remember, as I mentioned right in the beginning, that simvastatin has interactions with cyclosporin and CCBs. So one has to choose one statin with care. So this is one slide which I thought says it all. Basically, where you should start statins and where you shouldn't start statins. So in microalbuminuria, without any other risk factors, there is no role of statins to decrease the microalbuminuria. Chronic kidney disease stage 1 to 4, yes, you have to start statins. Nephrotic syndrome, the evidence is unclear, but most of the time, if it is something like a minimal change disease, they do respond to steroids and the lipid profile normalizes on its own. Dialysis patients, one should not initiate, and renal transplant patients, that's an absolute yes. So what happens if you can't use a statin? So various other tricks have been tried, like in all other things, like your multiple phosphate binders, we have multiple things to get down the lipids. So fish oil for CKD and dyslipidemia, there was no clear benefit to the use of fish oil supplements in CKD, and therefore at present it cannot be recommended for the treatment of dyslipidemia. Bile acid resins, again, the use in CKD is limited. There is not much data. Although there are no theoretical concerns regarding the use in ESRD, there is no data to address safety or efficacy. So again, none of the guidelines recommend the use of bile acid resins for the treatment of CKD and dyslipidemia. Niacin, as alluded by the previous speaker, has also been used for hyperphosphatemia. And one thought that whether it could be used for both hyperphosphatemia and dyslipidemia, but it has a very potent side effect of flushing, which makes the patients very uncomfortable. So with the newer phosphate binding agents and better lipid lowering agents, niacin is not found any favor. And it basically combining it with statin also did not find any benefit in the cardiovascular outcome. So also that drug cannot be recommended for CKD and dyslipidemia. Now, hypertriglyceridemia. The first thing is always going to be lifestyle changes and loss of weight, exercise, dietary changes. The second step would be statins. You are always wary of using fibrates in phenofibrates in chronic kidney disease because of the high risk of rhabdomyolysis. So very few indications to use phenofibrates, and also to be used with great care. And those are only if you have a hypertriglyceridemia induced pancreatitis. So at present, it's lifestyle changes, dietary modifications, and statins. So doses of statins in adults with CKD, as you can see, there is some amount of dose modification which is recommended. And atorvastatin is the safest statin, basically, if you want to use along with simvastatin. Rosuvastatin has fallen out of favor because it was found to cause some amount of tubular dysfunction and also found to progress chronic kidney disease in certain trials. So atorvastatin or simvastatin would be your drug of choice. So non-statin treatments, as you can see, as I already mentioned to you, niacin, gemfibrocil, fenofibrate, ezetimibe, bile acid binding resin, and fish oils. This is a slide which I'd be happy to share with the group if they need it. It basically tells you the dose adjustments and how to use it with cyclosporin. And I've already alluded to the fact that fenofibrate should not be used in stage 4 and stage 5 CKD. So this is a new drug, and basically it has found safety in chronic kidney disease patients. It is known as alirocumab. It's a fully human monoclonal antibody to PSCK9. So PSCK9 actually promotes the degradation of the LDL receptors, thereby diminishing the clearance of LDL from the circulation. If this drug basically binds to the PSCK9, it will help prevent the receptors will not get degraded, and therefore the LDL cholesterol will be cleared from the circulation. This has been tried in chronic kidney disease patients, and basically there was no signal of any worse side effects than in the other groups. The main side effect, as you can see in the last slide, was basically local injection site reactions. It's not available to the best of my knowledge in our country, but it's something to look out for. There is another drug which is available, which is known as cholesterol ester transfer protein inhibitors. This basically helps increase the HDL cholesterol, but it increases the HDL cholesterol, but it was not found to have any reductions in cardiovascular mortality. So it has basically fallen out of favor. There are also newer drugs which are RNA-based drugs, which basically act in the liver and help reduce the cholesterol levels, but that's beyond the preview of this discussion. So what do we know? In chronic kidney disease, there's dysregulation of the lipid metabolism, and it results in increased levels of triglyceride and oxidized lipoproteins and reduced levels of reduced levels of HDL cholesterol. The LDL might be normal or elevated. The response of statins in CKD diminishes in the later stages of CKD and in dialysis patients. So we need to look for other therapeutic targets apart from LDL cholesterol. Thank you.